All right, guys, welcome to Uprising 144K. I'm Hydrogen Man. You know I'm not going to give you any medical advice. I'm not making any medical claims, and I'm not making any claims for or against any product or products. But this is really interesting because there is a doctor. I'm doing my best to try to interview him, but he's extremely busy. He's a surgeon. He's apparently does multiple surgeries throughout the week. But he actually did something interesting. He put the hydrogen tablets to the test on himself. And this guy's type 1 diabetic, so he's able to make sure his glucometer readings, not only seeing where his glucose is, spikes, and how much insulin he's having to use because he's a type 1 diabetic. He put the pills to the test. They really did virtually nothing. He said that he saw such small changes, maybe 1 to 2%. It was so tiny that he wasn't even sure if they were doing anything at all because it was just too little of a change. Then he tried the hydrogen bottles. I won't say the brand that he used. I'm not naming any brands here, obviously. But remember that these methods, from hydrogen tablets to bottles, they're basically using the same method. Obviously, the pills are what we call a chemical reaction to make the hydrogen. The bottles are directly electrolyzing the water in these little bottles. I'm not a fan of them. But anyway, he put the bottle to the test. What was interesting is the results were basically the same as the pills. I was a little surprised about that. I actually thought that he would get a little bit better results. But in the end, it was basically the same. And he said he basically saw no difference. And that was fascinating. And I'm gonna try to showcase this information later, try to interview this doctor later, since you guys have been commenting below. Continue to comment below if you want to see an interview with this doctor. Highly credited, by the way. And then he contacted me and said, hey, I've used hydrogen. And this happens a lot, guys. I get so many messages about people who tried hydrogen and they're like, I'm not getting results. What am I doing wrong? And most of the time, from what I've seen, it's either tablets, bottles, and sometimes even the brown. Actually, the Brown's gas, I hate to say it, but let's just say I'm not a fan. I actually think it's not good, in my opinion. I'm just going to stay silent on that one. I don't use it. Let's put it that way. So, because by the way, I don't like to use anything that uses stainless steel or lye because of the lack of purity potentially. It's one of my concerns with the tablets too. During a chemical reaction, you'd probably have to get a lab test to see what potentially ends up in the water, but those are whole other things. The part is, how effective is the hydrogen? And I keep talking about this. Sometimes it's not even so much about the levels of hydrogen as much as it is about the bioavailability, and people don't understand that. There's a lot of people who don't seem to understand that. The Japanese are way ahead of the game on this. Obviously, they make the best equipment too. So he said, hey, I'd like to do your protocol. He did get the Lourdes Hydrofix from Holy Hydrogen. He did follow my protocol. And the differences, it wasn't a blip on the radar. It was a massive. The difference was so dramatic. In fact, he had to lower his insulin, because he's a type 1 diabetic, by almost 80%. Huge. On top of that, he had certain gut issues. He says they're resolved. He feels so much better. And then he was dealing with brain fog too, and some chronic fatigue syndrome. So this is very interesting, in my opinion. I believe more in the future is going to be coming out when people actually start doing good research on the way the different products affect different people, not so much on animals, on humans, because you're going to get different results, in my opinion, because humans are bigger than, mice. So I already kind of knew this, but to see these numbers for me was actually very interesting. And I want to share with you guys. So don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll try to update you guys later, hopefully with an interview with this doctor. Till next time.